Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the Frontline Changes report for the past 24 hours. Yesterday it was a poor Frontline Changes situation for the Russians, only captured around 4 square kilometers, totally off their trending, and pretty good news for the Ukrainians in that sense, because the day before Ukraine actually managed to capture ground over in the Sumy front. So we will now cover the past 24 hours. We're going to jump straight first to Hrekivka over at the Oskil front. So this is Oskil, and over at Hrekivka, there is a geolocation of Russian forces inside of Hrekivka, and this geolocation confirms the Russians' full capture of Hrekivka. So we have a vague mapping like this to confirm this is the estimate of the Russians' full capture of Hrekivka. So the advance is probably looking something like this as they advance and capture the rest of the grounds. So that's Hrekivka. The total advance is around 2.5 average, 2.53 kilometers. I think 3 kilometers average deep in terms of this advance. A very big chunk of capture, 5.55 square kilometers. So this does change the strategic situation here a little bit, which means Ukrainian forces over in the northeast of Hrekivka is in a kind of salient, and then the salient in the south of Hrekivka now looks really bad. Yeah, this becoming an impossible salient. So yeah, any forces here, no, I think they're going to die, or no, they're not going to get resupply. So this doesn't make sense. I think the Ukrainian forces probably will have withdrawn from this area here. But anyway, that is for analysis. That will be for the situation report. The next frontline change after Hrekivka is over in the Bakhmut front, over at Klishchiivka. So this is Bakhmut. In the latest mapping from the Ukrainians, this is Klishchiivka. Ukrainians has considered that they have lost this territory here over just off this heavy entrenchment. The Russian forces is now confirmed to have taken this position, and the border is now the front line is basically at the canal. The Russians already claimed this is the case long time ago. It's so long that I don't even know when it happened. So yeah, so there's this advance for the Russians. The advance is around 800 meters on average. So a pretty significant tactical change in this area here. But of course, in our analysis, this doesn't make much difference, because we already assume that the Russian one is most likely accurate. So that's mainly about it. So after Klishchiivka, the next frontline change is over here at the north of Shevchenko at the Niu-York front, at the Pokrovsk sector. So this is Pokrovsk city, and over this area here, there's this geolocation of Russian forces basically in the middle of nowhere, in the north of Shevchenko, and this makes it really complicated where the Russians actually advance from. Tentatively, I'm mapping it coming from the north of Pokrovsk, but there is always a possibility that the Russians have retaken position at Novospassky and have advanced up to the north of Shevchenko. There is also a possibility. So let's take this with a pinch of salt. The advance is either from around 1.2 kilometers, or it would be 1.3 kilometers from the south. Yeah, it's also 1.2. This is why I say this is a problem, because it's around 1.2 kilometers from both directions. It's basically in the middle. So we shall wait and see how this actually will be like in reality. So moving on from this front line, the next front line change is over at Zaporizhzhya, over in the Pokrovsk front. So this is Pokrovsk, and over at the north of Zaporizhzhya, Russian forces have been geolocated in two different locations in the north of Zaporizhzhya, south of Udashne. This Zaporizhzhya, and this means that the Russian forces have advanced around this reservoir or lake, and then they have further moved up northwest direction, and we have mapped a quite conservative mapping based on this advance. So this is the this is the current developments in this sector as the Russian forces gave up fighting over in Novosibirsk, or at least trying to push through. This push has been not that successful, so the Russians are going in a new direction, and so far seems to be pretty successful. Maybe the Ukrainians are not expecting this, so they are moving in the direction of Molodetsk. So there is the advance. So the advance in total is around 1.5 kilometers, or maybe 1.8, around there. So there's the advance over in the north of Novosibirsk. A little bit out of voice because yesterday I did the live stream on the DPA War channel regarding the Iran strike on Qatar, basically targeting the US air bases, and also in the western Iraq, and yeah, so no voice because I spoke for 2 hours straight. And so that's Novosibirsk. The next frontline change is over in the Komar front at Zaporizhzhya. So the Russian forces has been geolocated in a new location at Zaporizhzhya, confirming the Russians continue advance in this area here. In this village, it's important to note the Russians did announce the capture of Zaporizhzhya, and this is just my conservative mapping, still assuming that the Ukrainians have some position here, but there's a good chance that the Russians have already overrun this position as well. So this is likely to be the case with the advance around 400 meters over this area here in this village, as the Russians is now pushing towards Yalta and Zirka. So that's the main thing here. And over in the Shevchenko region, the Russian forces, according to the Ukrainian mapping, have captured, expanded the grounds in the east of Shevchenko. So the Russian forces captured the entire tree line in the north of Shevchenko, and then another big chunk of the territory where the Russians expanded their zone of control down the other tree lines. The Ukrainian mapping map it very not very nicely. They map that the Russians like this. They map it like that. Come on, just give the Russians this open ground. There's impossible to have Ukrainian forces over here anyway. They put it at the gray zone, they draw it like this. Come on, this is so ugly, So I linked it in like this because yeah, it's just natural that this area here can't possibly have. It's not even a gray zone. There's no gray zone about it. The fire control from these two tree lines is going to destroy anyone that dares to come in. It's firm Russian control. So that's the main advance. Further up north, going up north is 2 kilometers, which means the Ukrainians did not defend here, whereas they advanced around 1 kilometer, which means to the west, which means the Russian forces is basically flanking north of the Ukrainian forces that potentially is still defending at Shevchenko. So they're flanking around them. This is going to force the Ukrainians to redraw. So that's probably what's happening, and the Russians are expanding their zone of control around this sector to really secure their position in this eastern part of Shevchenko. So that is the main gist of all the frontline changes in the past 24 hours, and we're going to do some calculation. My voice is my throat. Okay, so put the black box. So the Ukrainians did not capture any grounds in this past 24 hours. The Russians captured 5.55 plus 1.51 plus 0.52 plus 1.8 plus 2.58. So the Russian forces captured 11.96 square kilometers, which means the Russians are back to the 10 square kilometers range. They are not advancing as per the 20 square kilometers. So the advance have slowed down. So yeah, interpret it whichever way you want, or it could be just a lack of intel. We do not know. But anyway, that's it. So thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe. Happy birthday to you if your birthday today, and I'll see you guys in the next update.